Hi, this is Mrs. Zhu, and we're going to be working on our practice quiz for tonight, which is actually practice quiz number 6. We're going to start with number 1. Most of these questions I'm going to set up in a proportion. If you choose not to do it that way, that's okay, but you do have to know how to set it up. So at least set it up that way, and then if you want to solve it a different way, you can, and then you would still end up getting the same answer. So for number 1, when I set up my proportion, I'm going to highlight here the information that I see. 6 pencils that are costing 99 cents. Okay? And then it is asking me, well, at this rate, how much would 16 pencils cost? So I'm looking for the cost here, the cost. So in these colors here, I'm going to use those to help me set up my proportion. I have 16 pencils, and I don't know how much that cost, and that's going to equal to 6 pencils costing 0.99 right here. Okay, so what I see here is I have 6 representing pencils and then 99 representing the cost. In the second ratio in my proportion, 16 represents pencils and X represents the unknown, how much that's going to cost. Now you don't have to set up the proportion exactly in this way, but that is one of the ways to set it up. You may set it up where 0.99 is flipped with the 6 pencils and X is also flipped with the 16, giving you a amount over the pencils and another amount over the pencil, so you can flip those two. Or you can decide to write it this way, where it's 6 over 16, 0.99 over X, and there's really those 4 different ways to write that, or the other way around, X over 99 and 16 over 6 instead. I'm going to choose to write it this way, and then I'm going to cross multiply to find my answer. 6 times X gives me 6X. I'm going to cross multiply 16 times point. So if I go over here, 16 times 0.99, I do need the decimal. It's important since I'm working with money. I want to know that my decimal is falling in the right place. I'm going to actually flip this here. We'll do 0.99 times 16. If I work that out, these are the numbers that I should get. 99, giving me 1584. The decimal would fall right here, telling me that there's 15.84 dollars here. 0.84, so I write them next to each other. When I cross multiply, then I set the equal sign right in the middle, giving me an equation that I can now solve by dividing the 15.84 with the 6. Okay, so now I want to figure out how much it would cost for that. When I divide, I get 2.64 exactly, and that will give me my answer. Okay. Number 2, I'm also going to write a proportion, and for some of us, maybe we're able to directly look at it and say that 120 miles over 6 gallons is actually the same as 20 miles for 1 gallon. What you're doing in your head by doing that division problem is you're actually telling me what a unit rate is. Something that you'll see in question number 4, in question number 7 and 8. Those are called unit rates, and calculate it from there. Now I'm going to set it up in a proportion. I'm going to do miles over gallons. So I see that there are 120 miles after 6 gallons, and I'm looking for how many gallons are in 200 miles. So I've got miles, gallons, miles, gallons. So I'm going to do 120 miles, giving me 6 gallons, using 6 gallons of gas, equaling 200 miles if I travel that much. How many X gallons of gas will I end up using? From there, I'm going to cross multiply and work out the problem. From right here, though, I do want to simplify this fraction to make the multiplying and dividing easier. If I do that, I can divide both by 6, giving me 20 over 1, okay, equaling still I have 200 over X. I'm going to cross multiply. 200 times 1 is 200. 20 times X is 20X. I'm going to write them next to each other, giving me an equal sign in the middle. Then I will take that and divide 200 divided by 20, cross out that 0. I know that 20 divided by 2 gives me 10. So in this answer here, I'm going to get 10. Not just 10, but I need to label that. 10 stands for what? Yes, how many gallons is the question I'm answering. So 10 gallons of gas for those 200 miles. Number 3, a car is traveling 300 miles. I'm going to highlight that, 300 miles. And there's 12 gallons of gas being used. How many gallons? Okay, 12 gallons. How many gallons? I'm going to highlight that one too. Will it need to travel 525 miles? I'm going to write a proportion. Okay, and then I'm going to solve it. So 2 things I'm going to do. So I need to, this question actually takes 2 steps here. I've got miles, and I'm going to choose to do gallons at the bottom. I can choose to do it the opposite way as well. I'm going to write 300 traveling, taking me 12 gallons of gas. That's going to equal 525 miles that I'm going to travel, and I want to find out X number of gallons of gas for that. From here, I'm going to cross multiply. Before I do that, I know that this fraction can be simplified, so I am going to do that to keep things easier for me. You don't have to, but I choose to just to help me. Divide both by 12. Actually, let's see, divide by 3. Sorry. Giving me 100 over 4. I know I can actually simplify that one more time, dividing both by 4, giving me 25 over 1. So really it's 25 miles for a gallon of gas, equaling the other ratio that I have there, 525 miles over an X number of gas. So here I'm going to cross multiply. I get 25x here. Cross the other side. I'm going to get 525 times 1. Whoa, a little trouble here with my pen. Not responding. 525. Set that equal to each other. Then for here, I'm going to take the 25 over and divide 525 divided by 25. Okay, when I do that, I get 21. So x is equal to 21. That's not my final answer yet because I do need to label it. On your quiz, it'll be half if you don't label. So 21 is going to be gallons because it's asking for gallons. Perfect. Try 4 and 5 by yourself. For number 6, you're finding the values that make the ratios equal, like these missing pieces. And they should be equal. So if I wrote 4/8 should equal to something over 24, and that should also equal to 36 over something, what would those missing pieces be? So there are several ways to look at this. I do notice that I could do some cross multiplying to figure out missing pieces. Okay, I could do that. Okay, I could also look at here, this fraction, 4/8. I know 4/8 is actually the same as 1/2. I know that's the same as 1/2. Okay, so if that's 1/2, if I have 24 down here, wouldn't that mean if I'm looking for half up here of 24, that would mean that this missing piece would be 12? I think that works. Okay, and I can check that by looking at the 4 and the 12 and looking at that relationship. Looking at the relationship between 8 and 24, they should have a same relationship. 4 times 3 gives me 12. 8 times 3 gives me 24. That's a perfect relationship. I can then look over here if I want to continue with that relationship and see if there's a relationship between 12 and 36. 12 times 3 gives me 36. If I did that with 24 and multiplied that also by 3, then I should be able to get this missing piece as well. 24 times 3 gives me 72. So I think all of these would work. I think 36 over 72 should also be a half because I know that all of these fractions, ratios, are equal to each other. And that's what it says in my sentence. So perfect, that totally works. I'm going to just double check that. 36 double that, giving me 72. It's exactly, that means that 36 is half of 72. So I do also know that these are all fractions that equal half. And there we go. Number 7, a unit rate. A unit rate here, I have 80 feet for 20 seconds. I'm really looking at the feet per second. How many feet per second is 80 feet traveled at in 20 seconds? I'm simply doing a division. Okay, I'm just going to divide those two numbers that I see. If I divide those two numbers, 80 divided by 20, that gives me 4. Okay, which means my answer is 4. 4 what? 4 ft/seconds. And that would be my appropriate labeled answer, giving me a full credit on that quiz question if it was a quiz. Same thing for 8. A unit rate. Unit rate, you do division. Make sure you label it with the miles/hours, miles per hours. Okay. Number 9 is another unit rate question. Okay, you know what to do. Number 10, you're simply writing this situation here as a ratio. I'm going to highlight that. And it says the ratio is a fraction. There's your clue. Make it a fraction. Oh, there's clearly two numbers here. I just turn it into a fraction. It tells me to write it in the simplest form. So I'm going to write 420 over 1,000. I'm going to simplify that by, I'm going to cross out these two zeros. That's like dividing by 10. 4 times 2, and then 100 here. I'm going to do divide both by, let's do 2, giving me 21 over 50. And I don't think I can do any more dividing here. So there would be my final ratio that's simplified. I'm going to skip down to number 12 here. The scale drawing of a gorilla is 1 millimeter for every 4 centimeters. Okay, so I'm comparing millimeters and centimeters. That's how I'm going to set up my proportion. So I've got millimeters and then centimeters when I create my ratios later. And then the gorilla here, it says it's 184 centimeters. So I'm going to highlight that one in blue because that keeps it with centimeters. Now I'm looking for what is the height of the gorilla in the drawing. Now the drawing is the one that's smaller, the millimeters. So I'm really looking for how much it's going to be in millimeters, the drawing of the gorilla. So if I set up my proportion, I'm going to do 1 millimeter, gives me 4 centimeters, equaling my next proportion, which is, I don't know how many millimeters, but I do know that the gorilla is 148 centimeters. So there's my proportion. Cross multiply that, 184 is equal to 4x. Then I'm going to divide 184 with 4. If I divide that, I will get 46. And there's my answer right there, A. 13 is very similar to 12. I'm going to move on quickly here and see which other questions. Number 14, I'm going to set up also a proportion. They actually give me a shape here with triangles, and they tell me that they're similar figures, meaning that they're proportional, and the proportion is 3 to 1. Now, obviously, the 3 to 1, 3 would represent the bigger triangle. This would be the 3, and this would be the 2. That's the relationship that they share. So I'm going to look for side A. Okay, now side A goes with side B, I'm sorry, this side over here, which is 8, because they're the same lengths. So that's my two proportions. The big triangle, I'm going to do big triangle, and small triangle are going to be my ratios that I set up. So the big triangle is represented by 3. The small triangle is represented by 2. That comes from the first sentence. That's the information I pull. The second part is I only need this part of the triangle. The other information is just extra for me because I only need side A. Side A represents the big triangle, so I'm put it up here, and then 8 represents the side of the small triangle. So from here, I'm able to then cross multiply. 8 times 3, 24, 2 times A, 2A, equal them together, and then I'm going to divide these two, giving me 12 is the answer for that missing side A. And for number 16, there's going to be more than one answer. Okay, so be careful. I know that might be a question here. And everything else should just have one answer here. Study hard.